Good morning. Good morning. Hey, it's Saturday morning, February 10th. It's also National Umbrella Day, in case people are wondering. Yep, still got this thing handy. Oh, God, where is it? Yeah, the cat calendar. Always important to have. Used to have ferret calendars, now it's cat calendars, but it just gets better each time. So, National Umbrella Day. It's also National Cream Cheese Brownie Day. I'm not a big fan of cream cheese on brownies. But nonetheless, let's get right into it. It's our standard weekly rundown. And we're going to talk about, well, our 5 big news stories, our 3 thought-provoking social posts, one big opinion piece where you guys might be wondering, what the hell is Dan doing messaging me here? Now you kind of know why. And then, of course, we're going to close out with some laughs, because who doesn't need to laugh in today's time, especially February, where, it's just cold, it's dark all the time. Seasonal affective disorder is definitely a real thing. So, hey, let's try to get some laughs here, and let's get going into it. So, as you can see, top 5 stories that we're going to get into are mortgage rates dropping to 5.5%. All right, get the champagne out now, but don't get it yet. And then we're going to talk about a major foreclosure on the largest apartment owner in the United States. Then it's a less real estate, but more about Amazon Prime. Seems like all of us have it, right? Is it actually beneficial for us? Or is it becoming too expensive? So what's the cost value proposition there? Then one of my favorite markets, Nashville. It just keeps getting hotter. There's this really cool construction project going on right now that I look forward to sharing with you. And then we talk about something that is near and dear to every homeowner or property owner, insurance, and why those costs are so damn high. But first, before we get into all of that, there's a few things. One, I want to give you a quick update on how the stock market is performing and general market indices that could impact your personal money. So as you can see, we're in the green on the 3 major indices. That's awesome. Bitcoin also is up, and I'm not in Bitcoin, but I know a lot of people do like that. What's up, Shuni? So, and then you've got the 30-year sitting at around 6.63 now. Fed funds and prime rate haven't moved yet. However, we do believe that could potentially shift down in the future. So, hey, that's all good for us. So that is the quick market update. Let's get into the weekly LinkedIn poll. Again, if you guys are on Instagram, you're not going to see this. It's on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, basically anywhere outside of Instagram, you're actually going to be able to see the things on the screen. But whatever, hey, sometimes you're just on the move and you need the vertical-based video format versus the horizontal. But this question we posed a little bit earlier this week in LinkedIn. It's just asking, hey, how many streams of income do you have? Because a lot of people that read, the wealth mindset type books, they understand that the average millionaire has about 7 to 8 different streams of income. Wow, that seems like a lot. But the good news is not all of it has to be active. A lot of it can be passive. So I'm just curious, for you people out there that might be watching this, how many streams of income do you have? How many do you ideally want to have? How much money do you ideally want to be able to live off of in whatever time you want to retire? So that was our weekly poll question. You can definitely answer that on the LinkedIn post made earlier this week. So now let's get right into the fun part, which I'm sure a lot of people that are either homeowners right now or looking to buy, which, by the way, it happens right after the Super Bowl, that buying season tends to open up for houses. So get yourself ready and get excited, because mortgage interest rates are expected to go down. In fact, Bloomberg has an estimate that it's going to be going down to 5.5% by the end of this year. That's pretty damn cool. Currently it's at 6.63, like I mentioned, but it was above 7% in 2023. So that's actually a marked improvement for us. And that high cost of borrowing had previously, made it the lowest inventory available out there, lowest amount of demand out there. And so thankfully, with these rates, receding, the market should open back up. And so that's good for you if you're trying to sell your home, and it's good for you if you're trying to buy a home. But also keep in mind, even if the interest rates aren't down yet, this might be the right time to actually buy, and then you refi later. So work with various lenders, try to refi and explain to them exactly what you're trying to do, recognizing that, hey, if you go after it now, there might be less competitive bids, so you can actually get it at a better purchase price, and then look to refi once those rates keep coming down. Now, you'll have to factor in like closing points and all those origination fees and everything like that, but it could actually behoove you to try to purchase now when there's less demand, all about those supply and demand metrics. Anyhow, let's move on to this major foreclosure that occurred. This is a picture of the property. It's in Dallas. Dallas is a pretty big place. Texas is a pretty big place, right? And if you've been a real estate investor in the past couple of years, I would be shocked. And in fact, hey, reach out to me because I want to meet you. I would be shocked if you were not involved in a real estate deal that either didn't need a capital call at a bare minimum or unfortunately got foreclosed upon. Knock on wood, I, at least as a passive investor, have not been caught in a foreclosure yet. I've been tied into 4 different capital calls though. So yeah, it's definitely been a tough real estate market out there. And yeah, I'm hoping for your guys' sake that you haven't been in that. But if you invest in enough real estate, you probably have been exposed to some form of a capital call just as a passive investor to make sure that that project succeeds. Well, anyhow, Greystar, they're the leading apartment management company in the United States. They're based out of South Carolina, but of course they own properties all over the damn place. And they secured a $127 million mortgage from a lender in New York for about a 378 unit apartment complex, again, that you see in the picture. And that was obtained in 2022. Well, things have not gone according to plan. And as of this past week, it was determined that they're going to be foreclosed upon. And the foreclosure was actually scheduled just a few days ago. And so we're waiting to kind of see, per the legal filings, what ultimately the outcome is. Of course, Greystar is going to try and renegotiate it with the lender, and that's might actually benefit the lender because what are they going to do with a property if they don't know how to properly manage it? Remember, lenders are in the business of lending money, not actually owning real estate property. So again, if you think this is just an anomaly, no, even the biggest guys out there are facing foreclosure just because it's a rather challenging market. Are things moving in the right direction finally? Yes, it seems like it. But the key word there is it seems like it. We're not quite there yet. So you just have to be cautiously optimistic, but make the right financially sound decisions for yourself. All right. So that's the Dallas foreclosure. Let's move on to this thing called Amazon Prime. I love it. I use it all the time. Once you have a kid, just getting those diapers and baby wipes is really, really helpful at the door instead of having to run to the grocery store every damn time. So I don't care what Prime might charge me in the future. I'm probably always going to keep it. But for other people that may not need to have all those brown boxes delivered right to their front door, the question could pop up now is like, is this actually really worth it? Because Prime has continued to increase their costs. Amazon Video has now determined that they're actually going to start charging for free of ads, even though we thought, well, isn't that what the $140 membership is for the free shipping and Prime overall? So Wall Street Journal actually came out with a really interesting article. I'll just say that much. A really interesting article that weighed the pros and cons, evaluated all the costs associated with it to make a determination on whether it's still worth it to be a member of Amazon Prime or not. Do you go to like Walmart Plus instead? So there's a lot of different things out there to consider in this situation. But I'm very curious. Would you ever give up Amazon Prime, or are you like me, where it's just like, nope, sorry, I am loyal to Amazon Prime through and throughout. So that is our third story. Just who doesn't love Amazon? Now let's go into something a place called Nashville. I'm sure you guys have heard of it, right? And it's a special place in all of our hearts. I mean, growing up in Cincinnati, I could get down there in 5 hours. It was a highly entertaining place. I like country music. And when you're young, man, is that a excellent environment to be in, just down there on Broadway. Everybody's living their best life, it feels like. Well, Nashville continues to grow, and it's in high demand. It's still one of America's hottest housing markets. And you can see in the image in the top left of the screen that that is Nashville Yards. It's an expansive entertainment district that's going to be kind of the entry point to people into Nashville. It's a $1 billion plus project. It's 2.5 million square feet. It's got multiple buildings all over the damn place, from state of the art movie theater to creative office spaces to actually even 2 residential towers that's going to house about 700 units. You're going to have top notch restaurants, fitness facilities, a pool. You name it, they've got it. It's going to be awesome. And I just love that about Nashville because, again, I'm a big fan of Nashville. I like investing in Nashville. Hell, I'd love to live in Nashville. If only I could, convince my wife of that. So that is our third story. Definitely check it out. I mean, a lot of cities are having cool, expansive opportunities, but when you go look at Nashville, this city is phenomenal. All right, so we're on to the final news story. Property insurance, dark, gloomy picture. Really, it sets off the tone, right? So you've probably heard this. and I've talked about it a lot in the last year, how property insurance has absolutely gotten insane, and people are having to be more creative to properly structure their deals to account for these property insurance costs. Whether it is actually housing, rolling the funds all into like a master policy, or actually taking out a higher deductible. People are trying to test out what is ultimately going to work for them to minimize their out-of-pocket costs on it. Because insurance, again, is generally supposed to be there for the absolute oh shit moments instead of like, I need this now. But in the US, they experienced 28 weather and climate related disasters in 2023. That cost a total of $93 billion. And there's more than 18 million rental units that are under threat from such environmental hazards. That's according to a recent Harvard study. So when you have those two stats just alone, $93 billion in damages in 2023 and 18 million units exposed to these types of natural disaster environments, it can scare people into believing that climate crisis is a real thing, and there's going to be hazards that are going to be occurring more frequently as a result of this, and increasingly affecting people that reside there. So property owners have to be very, very creative in how they're going to solve these challenges of rising insurance costs, which I already highlighted before we hopped right into it. So that is our next thing. And so if I close out our top five stories before we shift in here, I would just want to refresh you again. The top five stories were interest rates coming down to 5.5% by the end of 2024. Thank God, please make sure that actually happens. America's largest apartment owner getting foreclosed on. Yep, even happens to the best and the biggest. Amazon Prime debate. Up to you whether you want to keep it. Nashville becoming just one of the hottest places to be. It's already been one of the hottest places, but it's only getting better with these types of really cool, creative construction build-outs occurring right now. And then we closed it out with the doomy and gloomy property insurance becoming insane. All right, so let's get into now our favorite part of the week, or maybe it's a favorite for you, maybe it's not for me. I don't care. And so it's my three favorite social posts that I find, because I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. That's pretty much the platform I like to hang out on and chat with people. And so I try and find some interesting things every once in a while and bring it to you guys. This one is actually from our brain expansion group, and we're a really fun group to be a part of. They typically provide just like motivational messages and things like that. This one's coming from Varun Goel, and what he had, and you see in this visual, is the difference between motivation and discipline. And as you can see on the top part of the screen, motivation is really temporary and discipline is permanent. It's all about consistency for me. That's really what the messaging is behind here. So when you have motivation, yeah, you might spike at that top, but it's really hard to actually keep that spike forever. You're just going to drain your resources. Versus if you have a habitual routine, a consistency, that is discipline. And just winning 1% day over day over day over day over day will greatly exceed anything that you can get just from motivation. So think about it the next time when you're just like, well, I'm having a really crappy day, I don't want to do anything. You're just going to have to power through. Because when you power through those days, you're going to have a lot of winning days on that back end. All right, so let's get into another one. This guy, you've probably heard of him, Alex Hormozi, pretty popular guy. And I like following. I think his content's rather interesting. Don't agree with everything, but it wouldn't be human if you agree with him on every single thing. So anyhow, with Hormozi, what he was talking about, and I personally like this because people think I'm crazy. I've done this actually in real estate, where I will go in. Oh, what's up, Marion Golf Club? How we doing, Mr. Golf Club? It's great. But what I have personally done is, sorry, Marion Golf Club is in the house. You got to go golfing down there if you are a golfer here in New England. Just amazing golf club. They continue to renovate it every single year. Gosh, I think the world of them. So yeah, Marion Golf Course, you guys. Oh, and you guys are open. That is good to know. All right, well, that's an aside for any golfer out there. I used to golf all the time, and then I had a kid. I've now golfed 5 times since he's been born. But Marion Golf Course would definitely be one of those places. Now, let's get back to Alex Hormozi, because I'm sure he would like to golf at Marion Golf Club as well. And he's talking about, hey, if you're already going to go out there and actually knock on doors to try and get in touch with potential people, then do yourself one step favor. Actually put a Post-it note on the door then that just leaves your cell phone for them to actually call you. I know some people might leave a business card or anything like that. I've personally done this in the past. I would knock on people's doors, and I would just leave if they didn't open. But then if they did open, then of course I would make my initial pitch. And anyhow, I think this is actually a really good concept. You could do the post-it note. There's one guy actually in this chat that said an even better idea, since everybody seemingly has a Ring camera now. Rehearse what you're actually going to do on your elevator pitch when you're knocking on that door, and just do it into the Ring camera, because you never know. If you make it creative and entertaining enough, they might actually be willing to, one, either open the door because they're probably there anyways, or two, they might actually reach out to you and want to discuss more. Because it's creating that human element instead of just being a transactional thing. You actually want to engage the person. You want to show that you're human, and you want to be able to talk to them. And so that's actually a really interesting concept that Hormozy was talking about, and thus I wanted to share it here. And then finally, the third popular social post that I found rather interesting this past week. I love this guy. He's replacing Tony Robbins as the #1 performance coach in the world. So if you haven't heard of him before, you might want to learn of him. Ed Mylett, the absolute man. And he's talking about how wealth isn't an accidental jackpot. Like, you actually have to work towards it. You have to focus on multiplying your money. You have to be consistent. You have to have structure in place. You have to understand your cash flows, and you have to be able to monitor all those things properly to stay afloat, even in the worst of times. And believe me, there's going to be some really terrible times. I think I've personally lived through some of those. Maybe someday over a beer I can share it with people. But you have to be able to weather those storms and recognize that saving isn't just for the rich people. Saving is for all income classes. It might be different dollar amounts, but it's still that habit and that mental mindset of recognizing that you can be rich even if you are currently not rich today. You're building those foundational elements to be able to get to that in the future. So that's what Mylett was essentially referencing in his post that he made for all of us in this past week. So thank you, Ed. You are the man. Your Power of One More book was absolutely incredible, and strongly encourage anybody else to check that out. All right. So now we're going to get into my final element. We still have the 3 dad jokes, which I know a lot of people, all they care about are the dad jokes and nothing else, which, hey, to each their own. But for our final opinion piece, it was last week's blog. And a lot of people have been reaching out to me. It's like, Dan, I keep on getting these messages from you. It's like, yep, I've been sending messages. Yes, I am. But now I've got a good explanation for it. So in the past, I'd actually message people, and I apologize to people that got these messages in the past. It'd be all over the damn place, trying to either raise money for real estate, check in, see how they're doing, et cetera, et cetera. Just wouldn't work. But here's what I've actually learned more recently. And I'm sorry it's taken this long for me to figure it out. But I made it a New Year's resolution to, where most people are saying, hey, I'm going to go to the gym more often, I'm going to eat less meat, or I'm going to eat healthier, I'm going to get 8 hours of sleep, whatever it might be. So I didn't do any of those resolutions. The resolution I did was, I am going to make it an objective to actually, and this is crazy, but I'm actually going to focus on making my LinkedIn connections human connections. And by that, I mean, I'm actually reaching out to these people that I'm connected with to see if they want to do a phone call, a Zoom, or if they're in the Boston area, meet in person. And from there, it's amazing the amount of meaningful conversations we can have. It's not a sales pitch or anything like that. All we are focused on is really just trying to understand, hey, what are you doing? What am I doing? Where do we have some shared or common interests that we could potentially mutually benefit from? That's about it. And I will say, since I started this, and I didn't start right off the bat January 1, but I would say I think I had about 70 plus conversations in January alone, just saying, hey, I'm Dan. What's your name? What are you doing? This is what I'm doing. Like, it's kind of crazy. When great minds start thinking and brainstorming and trying to mutually build something bigger than themselves, you can find a strong symbiotic relationship. And so that's all I'm encouraging. If you get a message from me, hey, I am always down to have conversations. Although the calendar is starting to get a little booked up now with this approach. But hey, my objective was to connect with as many people as possible. We are all humans here. We're all here to try and help each other. And so if you get a message and you do want to talk, let's make it work. I can start talking on weekends instead, since the weekdays are getting kind of crowded. But really, for me, this has been game changing, and it's the best way to explain it. And I learned this while back at Procter and Gamble, where they were all talking about that growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And transparently, early on in my career, I was a very fixed mindset. I just wanted to get promoted, make more money, etc. It took me until a lot longer down the road where I became more of a growth mindset person. And being growth mindset, The real shift there is it's now less about me and more about we and how I can serve you, help you get to where you're wanting to go. And that's all that my LinkedIn campaign is about, is recognizing what are people doing, how can I potentially help them, and if I can help them, I'm sure there's good karma coming for me down the pipe. So that's far easier said than done, but it's it's a really nice way, and honestly, it makes you probably feel a lot better if you're going out there and trying to help people versus help yourself. All right, so let's now close this out with our 3 dad jokes of the week. And it's going to be in honor of the Super Bowl because, hey, we got to talk about Taylor Swift's big football day. So here we go. First one. Where do football players go? Sorry, I got distracted. Where do football players go when they need a new uniform? New Jersey. Why can't football players wear glasses on the field? Because it's a contact sport. And what dessert do they serve at the Super Bowl? Sundays. All right, so all my stupid jokes are done. I appreciate everybody hopping on. I'm sure you can watch this recorded as well. But it was fun getting out there again. Take care of yourself. Have a good weekend. I will see you next week. Bye bye.